Hi everyone, my name is Breen. I'm Serpentine Pink screenwriter. Thank you for coming to this Instagram Live event. We're going to soon be joining with Kristin Condon, Serpentine Pink producer, actress, and Serpentine Pink producer, actress, and choreographer. There she is. Hi Kristin. Let's see. Okay. Invite to join. Go live with Kristin here. Kristin is signing on. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Kristin's mom. There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
Yay, it works.
It works, finally. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I hope I have my dryer running in the background. Can you hear it?
Cannot hear
No.
it.
Okay.
We have our air conditioner on in here. I hope that doesn't. I hope that's not too loud either. Hi, Stephanie.
Stephanie, yay.
Welcome everybody to this Instagram Live event for Serpentine Pink, the film. This is very exciting. Nathan just said, hello, goddesses. Hello, Nathan, God. So thank you so much for doing this, Kristin. I've been wanting to do this with you for so long.
I know.
We talk so much about our process in our casual conversations and in our creative conversations, but I wanted to share you with the world. But you have a great online presence. It sounds gross, but to say it like that,
like a reality.
But you do. You have. You're great at sharing your creativity and talent with the world. So I thought it would be amazing to hear from the woman herself here. Yay. So before we get into any questions, I just wanted to let everybody know how we know each other. So we went to USC together, the School of Dramatic Arts. Mm-hmm. You were a grade above me. I was a playwriting major, you're an acting major. But we didn't really connect until you were in a few of my readings, right, at USC, but we didn't really connect until
Serpentine afterwards. I think I did a couple of readings after I graduated of your work.
Yeah. And it was actually when we're doing a workshop of Serpentine Pink that Nathan Singh, the original theater director, said, why don't we have Kristin Condon do Henrietta? Oh. And from then I was like,
I didn't know that. Thank you, Nathan.
Yes. And from then on, I wrote the part with you in mind. And then it just transformed into this incredible, wonderful, epic journey. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about your inspirations today with Serpentine Pink, your journey. And yeah, so the first thing I wanted to ask you is, we did this play almost over a decade ago. And you were one of the first ones to say, this would make a great movie. Yeah. I think it was you and O-Lan, the legendary O-Lan Jones, who said that. And I'm wondering, what about Serpentine Pink itself why did you think it would make a great movie?
I just thought that I wanted to see what could be done visually with it, and you're such a visual writer. Also, I think the way that you even set the scene in your writing for your plays is very descriptive, and there's a real feeling to it. Even more so, I don't know, to me it just wanted to explode out of the boundaries of a stage. And even though, I think we did that in the play too, we even felt that while we were making a stage version of it, was that like, oh, this really like bleeds outside the lines. I kind of was just really interested in seeing what the possibilities were to do if we could like change locations and, have a whole different visual language.
Yeah, different visual language. And it was so incredible to explore that in the shooting of the film, especially in terms of having those on-site locations in Joshua Tree and around the Mojave, and thanks Ron Hanks for all the locations,
Yeah.
the location scouting, the incredible. I mean, it really is a huge part of the film, is just having those locations. Yeah, but we'll get to that. Well, I guess I can ask you that now. Like, what was it like? Well, I'll ask you about Henrietta first. I'm very excited. So, I'm going to go order. So Henrietta is, well, she's the sexist dancer in the Mojave. Yeah. She's the co-lead. Everyone voted.
Everyone voted.
She's the co-lead of the film, and I'll let you describe her, because I'm interested in how you describe her, because I have spent so long describing her. And
yeah, that's true, right? And it's kind of hard for me to know if like my words would just come kind of from your description, having like sort of left the acting part of it behind and have been like focused much more on like the producing and like all the things that happen after we shot.
Right.
But if I sort of dial back for a second, I think for sure she's a person who is a dreamer. I think that's is a very key word. And to me, a dreamer maybe feels a little bit different than maybe how other people would describe a dreamer. I think it is actually that she lives in a place that everything comes to life. So like we consider that to be a dreamer. So like dreamer in has like some bigger dreams and like wants to do things, and that's kind of like a traditional way of thinking of a dreamer, but also dreamer in the sense that like in the desert things have a life of their own, and things that maybe aren't so are defined in a particular way for some people are very much alive to Henrietta. So I think she's a dreamer in that way too. And I think she's a performer as well. Like I think she's a person who, whether somebody's with her or not, there's somebody who's like, she's imagining watching her. Like she's got people who watch over her, who are her audience. And they serve as like her guides and her audience so that she feels seen. It's like, it's things that she's created for herself. Yeah. And I think that she's somebody who deeply wants connection. I mean, like we all do, and hasn't had the best experiences trying to find that.
Yeah, she just wants to connect, wants to reach out. And which is fascinating because, so in the story, in the beginning of the story, we discover that she's having troubles with her relationship with Jamie, her partner Jamie, played by the incredible Sabina Zuniga Varela. And she is a victim of Jamie's an acid attack, which we learn early on. And you said one of the ways, it was interesting what you said, she wants to connect so badly, but one of the things that she does to cope is she gets lost in the movies. And so I was wondering, so she's very attached to John Wayne, or the myth of who John Wayne is. So I was wondering which in celebration of movies, I think this Saturday is National Cinema Day.
Oh, it is?
Or National Movie Day. Yeah, there's a whole movement to make $3 tickets for Regal and for AMC. But I was wondering what movies do you get lost in? Which movies
it's sort of funny. I've been getting lost in like older movies. I find myself going back to movies even like before my time. The first thing that came to mind was Casablanca, which I've watched like many times, and it's such a classic. And I don't know. I think it's just because also the time period is different, and it's a total escape, and like losing myself in something that feels like a total escape. Like it's not related to the world that we live in now, and even the fact that it's like black and white, or like Hitchcock films and that sort of thing really make me lose myself in the actual story and the characters, rather than sometimes like more modern stuff, which I love and I watch a lot of too.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me go into my mind a bit more, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like analytical,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really enjoying not being analytical all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there, in terms of that for Henrietta, do you think that when she gets lost, does she get lost in her mind, or does she get lost in her heart or some other internal landscape? Or I don't know if you've ever thought of that before.
Yeah. Well, I think she gets lost in her movement, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that she I think she looks outside of herself for things, and that's how things come alive for her, is that almost she's like projecting some of herself
Mm-hmm.
into the world outside of her. So yes, I guess that in a way that's getting lost in your mind, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not really analytical mind in that kind of way that we think
Right.
about, like logic. It's not logic.
Right.
So it's that combination, that sort of space between the physical and more like the spiritual, I would say.
Ooh, yeah. So that's a great transition to, I wanted to ask you, so you choreographed the movement in the film, and I wanted to ask you, how do you approach choreographing movement for a character like Henrietta? And why does she use, part two of the question is, why does she use movement and dance when she does, even though you kind of just said it a little bit, but.
Yeah. Choreographing for her was like absolute joy. It was something that, like, a touchstone for me, with her. And also it was like an anchor. So most of this movie is very sad for Henrietta. She's in pain, and it's very difficult. It's a difficult journey to go on. So having the kind of juxtaposition and the movement and the dance, where to me that was herself, like come out, and like where you could get to see her joy. So in that way, that was a pleasure. And I think it's where she feels most free, in a way. She said that too. And I don't know how to choreograph. I don't know how to say how I choreograph for her. I watched a lot of burlesque. I studied a lot of burlesque dancers, and looking at like not just really how they move, not really that, but more like the character, and more more like the intention behind why somebody does burlesque. And I think burlesque is a fascinating movement. It's so inclusive. It's really just this beautiful big broad thing that I haven't been a part of myself.
Right.
So it was fun to dive into looking at all these characters who do burlesque all over the world. And one of my favorite things that I found was like a German woman at this like burlesque festival doing a Western version. And I was like, oh, yes, a Western burlesque dance. And she's, I think all over the world where people are fascinated with the Western. Henrietta is fascinated with the Western and John Wayne. And so I wanted to incorporate all of that into the dance choreography of both the on stage, but then also like later on at different other bits where we have movement happening. I guess there's a lot more choreography than just that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, actually that was quite a bit of movement in there. Okay. And then, like you were talking about, the totem of the animal of Henrietta is a deer, a Joe deer. So using, animal studies, and I love deer. So I'm kind of, paying attention to that sort of thing. And yeah.
Before we go on to the deer, because I want to know more about that, but Nathan wanted to know who are your biggest dance influences?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say Pina Bausch. I think she's amazing. I haven't seen enough. I haven't seen enough of her company. I was classically trained as a dancer, so I have a lot of like ballet in my background, but I also have like flamenco and tango and more world dance as well. So for modern, for more contemporary style dance, I would kind of fall in the Pina Bausch, Jose Limon. I studied Limon technique as well.
I know him.
That was like my modern dance background training. Yeah. And I just always, since I was a little girl, liked to make up dances. So
little Kristin and her tutu.
I personally just like to move, and that is kind of how I find a lot of choreography and create a lot of choreography, is from kind of a more internal place. So
there's this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say, just taking influences from visual art. And, you know, if I'm on a job as a choreographer, it's like getting, you know, the director's thoughts and visuals, and then sort of like inputting that into the system and spending time alone in a room, and then sort of moving around and putting on some music and seeing what comes out, and then trying to remember that.
Yeah, that's great. I think, and it's something that's fascinating about
Nathan said, please tell me there are adorable home movies and photos of little Kristin dancing. I don't have very much from when I was a kid. You'll have to ask my mom about that. I don't think there are any, but I don't know where they went to.
Yeah, something that reminded me of is this combination of, in the movie, it's a combination of like a desert noir, a Western, a thriller, and the Grand Guignol, the French horror theater Grand Guignol. So did that influence the movement at all? All those different genres kind of crashing together? Because there's this moment, you know, to give a little tiny bit of a spoiler, in the movie where you take the dress, where you have this line where you say, gosh, I should remember my own line. There ain't no dress that doesn't look good on me. And you have it, and you kind of just move around in it, and it's so Henrietta, and I love it. And you kind of tiptoe and walk back, and it is the most Henrietta tiptoe I've ever seen. I don't know if that was deliberate or what, but you kind of clutch the dress and tiptoe back to the wall with the dress, and it's just the most glorious movement I've seen Henrietta do, and I just loved it. I didn't know if that was deliberate or not.
Oh my gosh, no, I think I was just in the moment.
Okay.
I don't think that I thought about that.
Okay. Well, I loved it. It was just visceral. It was just, Henrietta is just a part of you now. Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Great. Okay, so the doe deer totem you'd mentioned before, I am fascinated. I usually do that when I write. I like to kind of assign animal totems to my characters, and Henrietta was a doe right away. Tomorrow at the Instagram Live with Sabina, we're going to talk about her animal totem.
Can't wait.
But yeah. So I was wondering, did you see that for Henrietta, or did you have another animal totem for her? Or
oh no, it was a completely 100% deer. I definitely incorporated that into her movement as far as choreography, but also just how she moved as a character. And like a lot of it for me, like when I look at deer, one of the main things, well, one, they're very graceful, and I would say far more graceful than I am. But there's also this element of alertness and stillness that I am fascinated with in them. And so I think, you know, and the sensing that they have, they have terrible vision apparently, and they're able to just sense, I guess it's here. I guess it's mostly what they're hearing. But for me, it was like, in Henrietta, it was like, how do I sense and feel kind of what's around me? Where are the dangers? And that kind of alertness, right?
Yeah.
But then also, I was in the cabin. I have a cabin in Pennsylvania, and I was surrounded by deer for 2 years, like a lot during the pandemic. And
I love watching your videos of them.
Yes, I became obsessed. They're also extremely sort of friendly, and you know, it's really because they want to be fed, but I like to pretend that they also wanted to be my friend, and so there's that aspect of it too, incorporated into Henrietta, just like the kind of like, are you my friend? Are you going to give me some food?
I can see that now, especially in those scenes with the great O-Lan Jones, when you're kind of negotiating that healing process with her.
Yeah. It's like a little like there's the fear of like, oh, what's going to attack me, but then there's also the, are you going to be my friend now and help me?
Yeah.
And there's like an openness to that animal in that kind of way, but as there is with Henrietta too.
And what's great about deer for Henrietta too is that they're so tender and they're so gentle, but they can also be really violent when they need to be to defend themselves. And I think that, I don't think Henrietta is violent, but I think that she, when she wants something, she goes after it.
Yeah.
Especially in offering her. Oh, that's a whole other conversation. but I was going to say, in offering herself as, you know, when she seduces certain people to get what she wants. I think that's a certain kind of, I don't want to say violence, but a certain kind of deliberate attack on people's hearts in a way. Great. So, okay, awesome character information. What was it like to shoot in Joshua Tree? Especially as a character like Henrietta, who is so tender and so gentle, but is kind of like this live wire and has been so greatly damaged and traumatized. And then you're kind of thrown into the harsh landscape of the Mojave, which is beautiful, but it is a harsh, kind of cruel landscape. Did it clash for you working in the desert, or did it inform Henrietta in a different way, or what was it like to work in the desert?
I wouldn't say in a different way. I think it informed in a deeper way, you know, because it's kind of like you're living it, and they create, you know, Ron and the whole entire crew, everyone, Vivian, created these amazing, the director, amazing spaces to work in that were really stunning. And, you know, three-dimensional, it came alive in a way that it can't be necessarily on a stage. And yeah, that just informs the performance, I think. And yeah, it was also stressful as well. Like, I think, you know, it is, you're truly living in it. Like, I ran into a snake literally
I didn't know that.
The street one day, and not during shooting, like when I was off, and you know, you're kind of encountering all of these very real things. And so yeah, I kind of lived it for a little while, which was a little difficult. Hard to live in that sort of skin and in that sort of frailty. And you realize too, like anytime Kristin, goes to the desert, I've always been a little freaked out as an East Coast girl, like surrounded by like trees and lots of water. Like the desert for me has always been like both a place of extraordinary beauty and also like just terror, because I remember my first time, I was mostly as an adult actually, going just even like not even out to the Mojave, but just like the general desert in California, Southern California, and it was like, what is this weird planet, you know? And then you get out to the Mojave, Joshua Tree, and it's even more like this very strange, different planet. So it made it easier in a way to inhabit that type of a character in those types of circumstances in that situation.
Yeah, it's a very provocative place. It is very mysterious. It's like this double exploration. It's like you have this exploration of Henrietta. Nathan says, so true. The desert equals beauty and terror, just like Serpentine Pink. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Nathan gets it. Yeah, that combination, that's the Grand Guignol, right? It's that attraction and the horror. But yeah, I think I have the exact same experience going to the desert. I love it. And almost honestly with the wilderness as well. I love the wilderness. I love animals. I love nature, but I am still so afraid of it. A lot of the wildness. And I think a lot of writing Henrietta was about that conflict, about like that line where she says, haven't you ever been drawn to an animal who's, you should leave when an animal comes close to you in the wild because it could be dangerous, but at the same time you want to go towards them.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's, if there's any part of Henrietta that I really connect to, it's really that. It's that idea of being so interested in the visceral, wild, kind of untamed side of a person's soul, but also terrified of that.
Yeah, because you can't control it.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels especially chaotic in the desert. And I think even also because you've got like the whole solar system out there in a way, you know, like the galaxy seems much closer. It seems much more alive than it does in places like LA where you get the light pollution. You don't really get to contact. You understand the desert how small we are. And I think that's can be really scary.
It is, yeah. And
it can be both, right? It's freeing in a way, but it's also scary. And
yeah, because so much about Joshua Tree especially is this healing aspect of it.
Yes,
there's so much healing, which Henrietta goes through that healing process.
Yeah.
All the characters do, but Henrietta the most, I would say, viscerally because of what's happened to her, but her acid burn. But it is so healing, but it is also so destructive.
Yeah.
Just like nature, I guess. But
yeah,
but in the desert, it's like plain to see.
It's really true too. Like I think, especially, you know, we've all been through so much the past few years, and I think that something I've discovered as a human being is that healing. We tend to think of healing as being like, and like it feels good, and I think that it doesn't always feel good, actually. And you know, nature shows us that.
Yeah, it doesn't compromise for your needs or wants. It just does what it does.
Or your comfort.
Yes, your comfort. So we have about 5-7 minutes left. If anybody has any questions for Kristin, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll read them, or in the question box, but we can just read the comments right now. But yeah, so something else I wanted to ask you about is, and I'm just very curious for myself, I guess this is a little self-focused, but something that I love about you as a performer is your ability to, your handle on heightened language, and really deft at handling, you know, poetic language. And it's almost like the desert and the magic of Joshua Tree and what everybody on the film created. It doesn't need any more poetry, but the language is so heightened, but specifically Henrietta, because she is in that movie world. How was that transitioning from the stage to film with language like that? And something that I'm really excited about for everybody to see is your what we call the deer monologue.
This
is your David Lynch moment. Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that question because, you know, like I think that's one of the things that drew me to this film and this story so much, because, you know, we put a lot of stories out there that are about trauma, and to me, it's the poetic language, the actual language that is spoken that helps the audience get a little bit of like space and perspective from that creates a more healing experience. Because to me, like poetic language is healing. Like words have the power to heal or to hurt. And sometimes you know, we take them so much for granted. So I don't know that there was any adjustment that was necessarily happened between stage and film, except that maybe I don't think it was necessarily a big shift, because you know, we were never playing to like a large audience or anything like that. So it was always just very intimate. And to me, the language is intimate and it is physical. So keeping that in mind with heightened language, that it's physical, and it's creating something is
sorry, go ahead.
is my thing. I like that.
That's like dream words for a writer, especially me who writes that kind of language. That's why we connect so well. Yeah, and then also working with the master of poetic language, O-Lan Jones. Your scenes are just so incredible. I can't wait for the world to see them. So Nathan has 2 questions. He said, what do you want the audience to leave with after they've seen Serpentine Pink? And then what's your next dream project or something you're brewing up?
So many things brewing, always. I would like the audience to leave with a sense, with a feeling really of like having been, let's see, how do I put this? I would like the audience to leave with a feeling of wonder, like wondering and questioning reality in a way. Their reality and the reality of the characters, I think. Because I think that is really interesting. I think that is, to me, that is very moving film and moving art. And I would like for them to leave with a sense of kind of like, I saw something different. I saw something different that I haven't quite seen something like this before. And I think that would be really, really cool.
Amazing. That reminds me of just one last thing before we end. I was listening to, if you guys have anyone, like tiny little question for Kristin, you can post it in the comment. I was listening to the director of the film The Witch and the Northman. I'm forgetting his name. But he said that religion and spirituality today has been replaced with our myths, specifically with comic book worlds like the Marvel Universe, stuff like that. And the movies kind of provide that kind of myth making for people, and that's why they're such devoted fans. And Robert Eggers, yes, thanks, Nathan. And I thought that was fascinating because I feel like it's always been movies and myth making. Well, movies haven't always been around, but since ancient Greek times, they've been stories have always been connected to a spiritual expression and celebration, and trying to connect to the divine. And I feel like the poetic, heightened nature of Serpentine Pink and what you guys did out there in the desert really does try to do that with Ron's special effects, those really cool special effects that he got working, the live effects and the locations and everything. It does, I feel like we do, and with all the performances, really do try to connect to whatever divine spirit is out there in Joshua Tree. Yeah. So that, I love that you said questioning reality when you leave the movie, because any type of spiritual conversation you have with yourself is a type of questioning with reality. And I love the way that film and any kind of storytelling we have today, but specifically film, because it is so visual, is this different type of way that we can kind of navigate through spiritual language today.
Yes.
So thank you for being that conduit for us.
And I want to say one more thing. And I was thinking about this recently, and why your writing is so special to me, and why this project is so special to me. And it didn't quite gel completely in my mind until I was having a conversation with another filmmaker who's a documentary filmmaker. And, you know, one, it's so important that, you know, this is a very feminine story, but it's not just feminine in the sense that, like, it's written by a woman and directed by a woman and produced by a woman and starring 2 women. It's really, because you're starting to see a lot more of that, which is really, really wonderful. But often it's women kind of going into the same form and doing the same thing, the same sort of storytelling that has mostly been done. It hasn't shifted really that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what's special to me about your writing is that it is very distinctly feminine. And I don't know if that, and I don't mean feminine, gendered, specific. I just mean actual, like the energy of
Mm-hmm.
being feminine and being a little not definite and slightly circular or
Mm-hmm.
not quite linear. And I think that is really special and really different. And I'd like to see more of that work in the world. Nothing wrong with the other work at all, because we need that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that there's a great space for that. And that is why your writing matters so much to me. So thank you
That
so
means the world
much.
to me too, that you said that. Thank you. I agree. More women in film. Hashtag women in film.
Yeah, but also just being open to like a different type of storytelling too.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Hashtag more women in film.
Well, thank you so much, dude.
Thank you.
This was so fun and enlightening, and I could talk to you forever.
I know, this is really fun. Thank you all.
Thanks to everybody for listening and watching and asking questions. And follow at Serpentine Pink Film if you haven't already done so to get updates. We have our premiere this Friday, 5 p.m. in LA.
Hey.
And hopefully national and around the world soon.
Thank you for being here, Sabina.
Yes, tomorrow we're going to come back tomorrow for another Instagram Live with Kristin's co-lead and partner in crime in Serpentine Pink, the wonderful Sabina Zuniga-Varela, 2 p.m. Pacific. And we will see you guys later. Thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Kristin.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.